live so that there could be some questions and answers if they wanted to, and just to give people an opportunity to hear the live version before the recorded versions go up on the resource desk. So that's a way of reminding everybody that these are being recorded and will go up on the resource desk if someone's missed it and they need to see it. So, so again, thank you for joining us. Hopefully your week has gone well and you've been able to log onto the resource desk and start poking around and doing a little bit on the site. I do want to take a couple of minutes to walk through some of the new changes, particularly to the home page, before we log in as a PHA user. Those of you who have participated in RAD for a long time will know that in the old version of the resource desk, there was the opportunity for public user access. Everyone had to have a login in order to get to information. And working with RECAP and coming up with this new design, it was decided that didn't need to happen, and we wanted to provide more transparency in the RAD program, and so more information is now available to the general public, and so that's kind of one of the overarching themes of the new site. One of the other pieces is the fact that RAD has two components. It's always had two major components. In the past, they were referred to as the first component and the second component, but RECAP is rebranding that, and now the first component is being referred to as RAD for PHAs, because that's the primary focus of the first component. And then the second component is being rebranded as RAD for multifamily. This represents the RAD program for rent sup, RAP, mod rehab, and soon the Section 202 PRAC transactions. These are all the kind of orphan programs, if you will, in the multifamily platform that can convert through the RAD process. So both of these are given equal weighting now on the resource desk. So it really is a RAD resource desk instead of just simply primarily a RAD for PHA site. So we've provided equal weighting on both of those. So you'll see both cards there. So you know, if you know which way you want to go, you can do that, and if you don't, you get information about both of them that can help you make the determination. So I've not logged in yet as a user, so we're still just as a public access, and so I wanted to show you some of the things that can now happen on the resource desk just as a public user. So first and foremost, you can get to information about RAD generally. So the document library is a great place to get general information about the resource desk. About the RAD program, and we've broken this up into different sections to help guide people through the process a little bit better. So starting at the top, you've got the ability to get things started. So if you're brand new to RAD and you want to learn about RAD, this is the place to start. So we put some documents that kind of get the RAD process kicked off. If you're maybe not in the RAD program, but you are familiar with things and you want a little bit more specific information, like working with residents, for example, in a RAD transaction, you could expand this area and you would see general information available to the public about working with residents inside the RAD program. So again, the idea is to help guide users to the information that they're looking for a little bit more easily. The financing plan, obviously a big part of the RAD program, and there's a lot of information here. This will also be the same place that you go as a user. Once you've logged in, you'll still go to this same document library, but there'll just be more documents there for you. So PHAs have some additional information. Once you get into RAD, you can see some additional information, and other user groups can also see additional information. So if you go back to the home page again, you'll notice that there's another spoke. So the one down at the bottom of the clock, we have trainings. And so when you click on the trainings, you'll see that we've broken these up in the same general categories, but these are going to be the webinars. So for example, once we record this webinar, this will come onto the resource desk, and you'll be able to see kind of how to use the new resource desk will be loaded on here. You can also see webinars in the specific areas that you might be interested in. So we've expanded the working with residents and starting with RAD webinars. So this is where you can go and see all of that sort of thing. Again, when you log in as a user type, this list is likely to expand a little bit more because specific user groups are allowed to see additional information. Okay. Also on the home page, we have added a couple of different search and notice features that RECAP is excited to have. And so we'll click on the notices, and hopefully that's going to go quickly. There it is. Good. We've been doing a lot of these trainings this week, and we've had some speed issues on loading this up that came up nicely here. So This information tab provides all of the relevant notices in the RAD program. So right now we're on revision 3, so that notice is posted there. Since it's an update to revision 2, you also have a black line version of revision 3 over revision 2 to show the differences. When revision 4 comes out, likely this winter, the same thing will be posted there, and you'll be able to see the changes from revision 3 to revision 4, and then the whole notice will be there. The supplemental notices that were released this summer are posted here, as well as the Fair Housing and Civil Rights and Relocation Notice that's been out for a couple of years. So RAD-centric or very heavily RAD-related notices will continue to be posted here, so you'll have one place to go to be able to find all of those things. So that's the top card of this page. The second card of this page is the actual most active notice, so it's revision 3 of the notice. So if you wanted the whole thing, you could click on the PDF and download the whole notice. But we thought that it would be nice for people to have kind of a table of contents and then go to the sections that they're most interested in, hit the plus minus, and then there's the full text of that section of the notice. So if you did want to read the entire notice online, you could do so by opening and closing each of these sections. Or if you knew the area that you were really interested in, you could go to that section and look very quickly and hopefully find what you're looking for. Okay? But to further enhance that and to really build off of that searching ability, if you click on the search spoke, we've created a series of specific categories, again, trying to take the user to what they need most quickly. So in this particular case, let's take a look at I don't know, awarding and acceptance of just to change it up a little bit. Let's look at the awarding and acceptance of a CHAP. So here there is a direct link to the notice section that references this, and of course I've pulled one that didn't have anything. I should have stayed with Linda's. That's right. So in the new construction section, we have that notice link embedded, and P.S. we'll get the link fixed on the other one. But you'll notice that the first choice is always going to be the notice listing. RECAP really wants all users to use that as the base of knowledge and the kind of the core reference point. So you'll look to the notice first, and then if there happen to be documents that further expand on new construction or whatever area you've pulled up, maybe there's a guide or something else there, that would be put there. And then any questions that are related, any FAQs that have been asked around new construction or whatever you've searched on are going to show up next. So again, prioritizing the notice and that notice section first, then any guidance documents, and then the questions secondarily. So that's kind of the new way of searching through this, right? So not that we're going to spend much time on it, but just to show how the RAD for multifamily works, it's the same sort of thing. So their document library is going to come up with specific categories related to the RAD for multifamily, and then they can click through and see all of the various pieces that they want to find out about. One of the other things that you can also do here is you can now apply online for RAD, and we're going to show that feature because you actually have to be logged in. You have to have a user account to actually apply. So we're going to show that feature once we log in. Okay. One of the things that I want to point out before we kind of leave this main site is the contact RAD section at the top. This bar will stay. This top blue bar is going to stay throughout the resource desk. But the contact RAD is a way that you can quickly send a message to us, questions about the RAD program. Right now, any issues that you're having logging in or finding things. But this is going to be, again, a way for PHAs and other users to contact the RAD resource desk and get answers to their various questions. So this is something that you all are going to want to get very familiar with. Okay, so Linda, let's log in as a PHA. Again, I'm going to use my friend Mary today in Durham, North Carolina as my example. They processed a number of transactions and have some transactions in process, and so it's a good site, a good thing for us to show. So once you've logged in as a PHA, you're going to see that there are a series of cards. And everyone has these cards, and so you don't have a search card. So what happened there? Interesting. let's stay here for just a second. Let's stay here for a second. So there are a series of cards, and let's close these so we can kind of see what's coming up for folks. So we're going to go over to the live site in a minute. That has the main card that everybody sees is actually the search. That's right, they don't search, exactly. So what are you saying? So we have the various cards that people that you get, and so each card is hopefully going to help you be able to move through your work and your portfolios better. So the first card in the upper left-hand corner, this notification since last login, this is going to be something that's going to keep track of any of the information that's been sent to you from the resource desk or things that have been done. So, for example, if you've been working with the PHAs on a site neighborhoods approval and you've been going back and forth, you're still going to get the email notification when the PHA folks post the document on the resource desk, but you're also going to get this secondary notification to let you know that, yes, in fact, you've got a notification from FHEO, and you can quickly click on that and go and look at what's been posted. Okay? Then the next card I want to look at are all my properties. So this is going to be a list of all of the transactions that you have or have had in RAD. So PHAs can still see transactions that they have withdrawn from their portfolio. They can't work in those, but they can see those. But they can also see this one, in fact, has a financing plan submitted and then a bunch of closed transactions. This status on the right-hand side is consistent throughout the whole resource desk, and we're hoping will allow people to know where their transactions are in the process much more quickly because they're all kind of color-coded and right there for you to see. So then if you're working on a transaction, you would simply click on the name of the transaction, and this is going to take you to the working page, also known as a transaction page. So at the top, you now see that in addition to the blue bar that's going to be everywhere, we've got this secondary bar with a variety of drop-down boxes in it. And so these drop-down boxes on the transaction pages will take you to all of the different places that you or people working with you are doing work. We've also added just to the right this contacts button. So if you click on the contacts, you see on the first page all of the participants from the PHA side. So these are all of the various players that the PHA is allowing to work on this transaction. These are the ones that can see and work things. And then on the second page, you'll see all of the HUD folks that are working with you. So all of the recap staff, your transaction managers, closing coordinators, then to the extent that you're working with a PBRA transaction, the asset management folks. If you're in closing, you have your closing attorney. So a one-stop shop, if you will, for all of the people that are helping work through this transaction with you. So Linda, it looks like we might have a question, so let's go ahead and click over there and see what we've got. Okay, how do I add as a user for input RAD information and resources? So the question is, how can I have my email address added as a user for inputting RAD information to the resource desk? That's a great question, and we're going to show you that right now. So if you go back to the home page, so since Meredith is the primary contact for the PHA, she has this card in the bottom left in this layout called User Administration. So she is able to control all of the access to the resource desk through this card. So right now you see the list of users that are currently able to access the resource desk. Their type in the middle there column, if she had given them the ability to upload documents or be notified when documents and things come across, that type would be listed. Otherwise, if there's no type listed in there, they are basically view-only folks. And then you'll notice right above this, we've got new requests. And so both of these folks have asked for access to the Durham portfolio. So that is the way that this would work. So you as a user would log in, create a login, and then you would say what your affiliation is, and you would say, I work with the PHA, and you would hit continue, and that would send a notification to Meredith via email, as well as on this user administration side that she needs to give you access to the resource desk. And then she can give you the access either whether you can see things or upload things or do other actions, that sort of thing. So that's all controlled by the PHA primary user. So great question. So hopefully that got to your answer. So let's go take a look at the back to Laurel Oaks that we were looking at. So now we're back on our working page, and this transaction has an RCC, it's been submitted with no RCC issued, and so right now it's working through that process. So as Linda scrolls down, you should be familiar with this ownership data, which the PHAs are all responsible for filling out. Scroll back up just for a second, Linda. I won't pass a little bit higher. One of the things that's very important on this top section is kind of right below the solid blue line, we have the DDA number. So this DDA number is the PIC removal application that has to go into the SAC within 30 days of CHAP issuance. If this number is not added, then your ability to enter information in the financing plan submission is very limited. Okay, so this is a way of forcing that. This is an area that RECAP and HUD had some issues with. They want to make sure that all PHAs are filling this information out. So you need to enter the DDA number that will then unlock the ability to add additional documents below. Okay, so scrolling down, everyone should be familiar with this. Generally, this information. We're asking for all of this in order for, once the RCC is issued, that data on the RCC is actually correct. So that's why that ownership data is so important. Then the third card rather on this page is the financing plan grid. So everyone in RAD should be familiar with this. Those of you new to RAD, this is where all of the financing plan documents are uploaded for review by your transaction manager. So scrolling back up to the top a little bit, Linda. The top of the grid, you see that how this kind of works. The item number, then the first column next gives you a description of what that is. If there's a template or additional guidance there, that will be embedded in the grid for you to be able to pull up quickly. Then there's a space for you to upload the required file. Then there's a place for you to provide comments to your transaction manager if you need to. Oftentimes we find that the following column where the transaction managers are entering their comments, that tends to be entered first, where the transaction manager has written some notes to you as a PHA saying, I need some further clarification on this, that, or the other thing, and then you can come back, describe what you've done, and then upload a new document if necessary. So let's pause for a second because I see another question, Linda. Will users now be able to delete items that have been uploaded to the resource to the financing plan documents? No. A recap does not allow PHAs to delete documents. You can always upload a new document. One of the things that we found in the PHA comment section is saying, sorry, I uploaded the wrong document. Please use I've uploaded the next one. So RECAP likes to have that administrative record. There's no harm done. You're not harmed by uploading the wrong document, but you do need to get it loaded in the right place. So it's a great question, but there's no ability for the PHAs to delete any documents. Okay, so let's scroll down a little bit more and get down to the bottom. And so once you've done all of your financing plan information, the Submit Financing Plan button is still there. It's still in red, and it's still the only way that a financing plan is submitted. So this is, again, the most important piece for PHAs that are new to RAD, and those, just a reminder to those of you who are not, that until that button is pushed, the financing plan has not been submitted. Okay? Another question. So we've got a user-specific question saying that they can't log in using their old password. So we're going to write down that username, and we will get back to you. So we have had a couple of issues, and I can see from that question you're a multi-PHA user, and we're going to reference that towards the end of the conversation. So, but we will take care of that for you. So one of the other new features that we have in this is the transaction logs. We've made some significant changes to the transaction log, and particularly how this is processed, and also how you all are going to be entering some specific data on the sources and uses. So one of the things that you'll notice on the the transaction log is we've now gone to just 3 columns, and we've gone away from the milestone references. So the first column will be entered during the financing plan phase. So right now, the financing plan has been submitted on this transaction, so this is where the PHA should be working. They should be working in this column and filling in information here. Once the transaction's been approved and an RCC has been issued, the second row underneath the financing plan title will say data locked RCC issued. And all of that information in that column will be locked down, and the information in the as closed column will now be where the PHA will make any necessary updates up into closing. And so the idea here is that both the TM doing their review and the PHA to some extent will be able to see, okay, this is what I had when I was approved, and then this is what I've now closed on, so you can easily see any differences that come up. You'll notice that we have added a little checkbox there for the TM review complete. So this is a further enhancement to allow TMs to signal to closing coordinators that they have actually done their review and the transaction is cleared by them to close. If you as a PHA go in and change some information in that column after the TM has done their review, that box is going to be unchecked, and there's a space on the closing coordinator page that's going to notify them that the TM has to go back in and reconfirm those items. Okay? So if you scroll down a little bit, oh, sorry, we have a question. Yeah, we got you covered. So we know back to it was a continuation on the user ID question, and so we definitely know about multiple users, and we'll get those fixed. So here we have, you'll now see that on the source of funds, we've got a new button called Enter Sources. So when you click on this, all of the information that previously you have been entering and submitting separately in a financing template is all going to be gathered here on the resource desk. So you're no longer going to have to enter separate documents as financing templates. So what you'll have to do, though, is you're going to have to fill in each of these various categories. So RECAP has come up with 4 sources categories: hard debt, soft debt, grants, and equity. So when you start filling in the information, they've also prescribed the source, the select source. So if you, Linda, if you pull up the drop-down, this drop-down box is going to be consistent through the hard debt, soft debt, and grants. So all of these various things could potentially be pulled up in any of these categories, and RECAP wants you to select one of these categories. There's no longer the ability for you to have an other source of funds. You're going to have to find a place on this list to enter your source of funds. We feel like we've covered everything, but if we haven't, we will take under advisement any requests to add to that list, and we'll work through that with RECAP. But right now, we think we've covered most cases that we need. So once this is entered, you can click the Generate Financing Templates, and you can see that there is what you're familiar with seeing and what you're familiar having filled out in the past that you no longer have to do. So these financing templates are now generated for you automatically. They're also updated automatically once you get the RCC issued and you're moving to closing and terms change and that sort of thing, and you're refining. So these financing templates are much more readily available and easily updatable. Okay. So let me, if you go back to the transaction log. Yep. So then that rolls through, and the various totals and subtotals will start working. I will say that this is an area this week that we've had some difficulty with. The transaction log data migration has been a little bit of a challenge for us, so we ask for you to just bear with us. I think we're going to have this finished by the end of the day, but certainly by the end of the week. So for those of you who are processing transactions right now, if you're really struggling and you've got to get this done, shoot us a note and we'll work with you to get it straightened around. But if you're not in a huge urgent rush, give us, till the end of the week, and this should be solved. Okay, so that's one of the major changes is the extension of the sources. And as Linda scrolls down, there's also kind of new categories in the uses section and kind of subcategories. So we're hopeful that this will make things clearer for everybody, and that RECAP will get the information that they need, and that PHAs and developers will be able to enter the information that they want, and everyone will be on the same page. Okay. So Linda, let's go take a look at the closing page, the other major page that's changed for PHAs. So this is another page that has changed significantly in this rollout. And the reason it's changed, I say it's significant, is because RECAP will no longer be accepting CDs and hard copies of closing documents. All of the closing documents are now going to come through the resource desk. So Linda, if you scroll down, you're going to find that much like the financing plan, we've created a grid-like structure for PHAs to upload their closing documents. You'll notice that at the top, at the top of this card, it says closing document upload, and in this case, it says -PBRA. If it was a PBV transaction, which has different requirements, it would be -PBV. So the system knows whether it's PBRA or PBV, knows the required documents, and is able to give you the grid that you need to, to submit. One of the other things that's going to be nice for you all to see is once you've uploaded the document, the far right-hand column, it's going to give you a status of what your closing coordinator, whether they've cleared this or whether there's an issue that remains open. And I think they can see that. Okay. Like the financing plan grid, there's a place for the PHA owner to provide their comments, and then just to the right of that, you'll see that that's where the RAD closing coordinator comments are, and then also the opportunity for HUD Field Counsel to add comments at some point. Okay. So scrolling down, just like the financing plan grid, once you get to the bottom, you have to submit your closing package, and once that happens, an email is generated to the closing coordinator as well as a notification on their notification card when they log in saying Laurel Oaks' closing documents have all been submitted. Now the closing coordinator can go in and review those. Okay. So again, just like the financing plan, that button's going to have to be pushed in order for the closing coordinator to know that you've completed all of your closing documents. We're hoping that this is going to be useful for a number of reasons, but one of the places, particularly in a PBRA transaction, we believe it's going to really help integrate the review by the closing coordinator and the asset management folks who are going to be reviewing similar documents. And so the ability to push these documents back and forth within HUD, we think is going to be very helpful for everybody. So we're excited about that. Okay, so let's go back to the home page. So the last card that we have on this page is a reserved units card. This is a new card that we added because there's there's often been a need for PHAs to see what's left in their multi-phase award if this particular transaction has a multi-phase, or what's left in their portfolio. So this is a new place for all of that information to be added. When's your portfolio award expiring, that sort of thing. So you'll be able to easily get to this information without having to either ask the resource desk or ask your transaction manager or find it buried someplace else. So that's a piece that we think people are going to be very interested in using as well. Okay. Linda, what is applications, right? Yes. So the ability to apply online. So in this particular case, while Meredith is already has active chaps, she still actually has other transactions out there. So if she wants to create a new application, she would go here, and that application for the transactions that she has left in her portfolio would be there, and she would just start the application process right from here. No need to send an email to the RAD applications mailbox anymore. No need to fill that out. Everything's now online for you. So then if you go back to her homepage, and then once she has submitted that application, then the project name would be listed above or below. I can't remember. Probably below. Okay, so right below create application, the list of applications would be there. So if she had an active application, it would be there, and then she would be able to see the status of that application. So a lot of you have wondered kind of where things are in the application review process. Now it'll be a lot more transparent. You'll see that the application has finished the threshold review and it's pending, or the CHAP issuance is pending. You'll see this a lot more easily. So you'll know kind of where that application is. And for those of you who are sometimes anxious and need them for a tax credit application, that sort of thing, you'll be able to get kind of real-time status of your applications. So we think that will be nice, nice for folks. Okay. Linda, what else have I missed? That's about it. So again, we've been live since Monday. Hopefully, a lot of you all have used the site. We know that after our first training on Monday, we had about 20 PHAs that reached out to us with various issues, and we got those solved very quickly. You are our primary user group. We are prioritizing all PHA requests around resource desk rollout because we know you all are actively out there using this, and we don't want to get in the way of any processing. So if you have any problems, please reach out directly to us. Click the Contact RAD button. We will get back to you as quickly as we can. Certainly, you can reach out to your transaction manager, or you can send it, but certainly reaching out directly to the resource desk is probably faster. How will HUD reconcile HUD consultants who have multiple logins with multiple PHAs? So we have the resource desk now has a single login. So all consultants that work with multiple PHAs now should be able to log in with one login and see their portfolio. There are issues with that, as we found out, because some PHAs have granted different access to different users, and that has caused us a bit of a hiccup. And one of the previous questions we had was around this same sort of thing. So we're resolving that on kind of a case-by-case basis. We have a list of most of those, but we want to make sure that we have them. So we have your name and information. We will make sure, Naomi, that we get you resolved, and Ed, we've got you as well. So we will look on that and make sure that you're getting resolved quickly. Okay. So I don't email the resource desk for technical questions. So you should absolutely email the resource desk for technical questions. You can also simply hit the contact RAD button, and this goes to the resource desk as well. So if you want to send an email to the resource desk, that's great, or if you want to use the contact RAD box, you can also do that. So either way will get to us. So that's not an issue either way. Okay. We are hopeful that most of the transition will be seamless. We know that we've got some glitches. I've mentioned the transaction log already. Hopefully that'll be solved later today or tomorrow. But as we work through this over the coming weeks, we know that you all are going to have potentially some other ideas and things. So likely we will have the end of October, beginning of November, we're likely going to have kind of a follow-up call just to see how things are going and some things that you may or may not want to see changed moving forward. So we will definitely be reaching out to you and making sure that that happens. So we got another comment, another question. Looking through previous closing document, I will open some of the documents. Yeah. So somebody's having an issue with opening previous documents. So that's one of the glitches that's being worked on for sure. Some of the documents, nothing was lost. Just be rest assured that it's all there. But there are some links that were broken, and we're having to rebuild those links. So hopefully those should be worked out. For transactions that are in closing right now, those are prioritized, so we'll be looking at those quickly. Transactions that have already closed, we'll get back to those later. But if you've got one in closing right now, we'll be looking at those. I have a client with one PBV and two for her documents. Not entirely sure what that question was, because RAD doesn't allow for a split conversion. So there should have been, if you had one unit that was converted in PBV, that was one conversion, and 229 units that were converted in PBRA, that was another conversion. So that's not really, they wouldn't be under the same thing. One would be under one, and one would be under the other. So Ed, if you want to send me an email offline on that, I'll take a look. But that should be separate. Should be separate again, separate transactions. Okay. All right. Well, thank you all again for your time. Again, this will be recorded, posted to the resource desk, so you all can listen to it again if you'd like. And we look forward to working with all of you as this continues to roll out. So thank you all very much, and have a good rest of the day.